Spain for you. Tell us what you like and what you're interested in, and we'll help you create the holidays you're looking for. In Spain you'll find a whole world of options to choose from. Come to Spain and become a part of them. Great cities that are famous all over the world, inland destinations steeped in charm, maritime towns to enjoy activities by the sea, a host of places to explore. Come and discover Spain. The España why form a part of Derechos. Calendar of events. All year round in Spain you'll find a whole array of sporting and cultural events on offer. You'll be able to enjoy popular festivities, take part in major celebrations, attend top sporting events, visit exhibitions by world-class artists, and you'll be captivated by great music and works of the theatre. Just pick a date and decide what you want to experience on your trip to Spain. Seaside destinations. Spain has some of the best beaches in the world. That's the reason we come top every year in the number of blue flags awarded. You'll find a whole range of different destinations where you can enjoy them all along the Spanish coast, including everything from large seaside cities to enchanting fishing villages.
Take a break from the daily grind, breathe deeply, and cast all your cares aside.
The moods turned sour in Madrid, with riot police charging out of their fortified positions around the Spanish parliament and plowing into a vast crowd of protesters. Flocking to the capital from all across Spain, tens of thousands of demonstrators have joined a rally to express their anger with the government.
In austerity-struck Spain, street protesters are screaming for the government to resign over the latest corruption scandal. At the head of the Conservative People's Party, PP, Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy has said he will speak publicly on the matter on Saturday. It concerns allegations that members benefited from a slush fund fed by private companies for years. Spain's main rival newspapers, the liberal El País and conservative El Mundo, flushed the story into the open 2 weeks ago, revealing excerpts of almost 2 decades of handwritten accounts that it said were maintained by People's Party treasurers. The paper said the accounts showed more than a decade of payments to Rajoy of more than 25,000 euros per year. This has undermined his reputation for honesty. Former PP treasurer Luis Bárcenas stepped down in 2009 when judges began to investigate his possible involvement in alleged illegal payments from builders and other businesses which won government contracts. A PP source said the allegations, if confirmed, raise serious ethical questions, especially because politicians granted large numbers of development contracts during Spain's building boom. The party and its leader, Anne Bárcenas, deny the corruption allegations.
A leading member of Spain's ruling People's Party has expressed her shame after the arrests of more than 50 prominent regional political figures. In one of the country's biggest crackdowns on corruption, police are investigating government construction contracts worth more than 250 million euros.
Practically every day there are reports in the media on cases of corruption among Spanish politicians. They affect almost all the political parties and all the administrations, central, autonomous and local. Some of the most famous investigations are the Gürtel case, where 200,000 euros disappeared, the Palmarena case with 100 million euros and a condemned president, the popular Jaume Matas and the Payeros case with 380 million euros, the Pretoria case with 45 million, and the Noose case with a member of the royal family involved, Iñaki Urdangarin. But the list is much longer, including almost all the communities of Spain. The Spanish Treasury controls quite accurately the workers, self-employed and small companies. But there is a sector that gets away from them, a sector that usually has continuous business with administration.
You said that everything Mr. Bárcenas said was false, except for some things. That was a very famous quote that you said, salvo algunas cositas. What are those some things?
Well, it seems that some of his notes were true, but the vast majority of them aren't. And, we're looking at a debate of more than 5 hours last August in Parliament. I talk about what's the position of my party, other parliamentary groups, which is now in the hands of the courts. And no one has been charged. Not a single person has been charged. So we're very calm about that. And there's a series of regulations to avoid problems of financing political parties in the future, so that those responsible for the finances of political parties will be monitored by the Parliament on an annual basis, and we've put that out there. And then the Accounts Tribunal is also going to have more transparency in the administration. That's a pioneering legislation, and so it's going to be increasingly difficult for these kinds of behaviors that are inappropriate or that aren't in keeping with the law or with the ideas of normal people of how things should be.
But what were some things that were true? I think that's the thing that you should clear up, because there was a poll that came out last month where 72% of Spaniards said that they felt that you were not truthful when talking about the illegal party finances.
Well, I always work to try to flip the forecast. Look at the economic forecast about Spain, and we say, well, we're going to turn that around. And so now we're going to work to turn around some of these things that the Spanish society is thinking right now. But I can tell you that the most important thing today, there's two things. One, what are the courts going to say? That's very important. And second, that the government, my government, has already presented a wide-ranging package of measures to make sure that in the future the political parties don't indulge in things that they would later regret.
But if it is proven that some of your campaigns, specifically the 3 times that you ran, it was used illegal financing, then what? Would you resign?
Well, there's things that can't be shown, and so it doesn't make any sense to say, well, what you should do, can you show this, can you not, if it can't be shown. There was no illegal financing.
And it was also found that some of the evidence was destroyed that the judge requested. So are you going to fire someone in your party? Will you lay them off when you found out who did that?
I have no idea that any destruction of evidence was carried out.
On the laptop in the case, there was found that some of the evidence that the judge requested was not there.
I don't know anything about that. I don't know if someone erased it, they didn't erase it. All I know is that the judge has sent that on to another court, and I hope that that court hands down a decision in keeping with the law, and of course we'll all respect that. But I can't talk about that because I don't know anything about it.
Well, you don't seem fazed by the corruption charges. Are you more worried about the bond market right now than you are about the corruption charges? I'm very concerned about both things. I'm concerned about the bond market and the economy because we're talking about people's lives here, but I'm also concerned about corruption, and I'm concerned about a lot of other things that are happening in Spain and in the rest of the world. In any case, I have to tell you that
I'm very sorry. I made a mistake. It won't happen again.
It happened a year ago. King Juan Carlos apologized to the Spanish people for going off on a hunting trip to Africa while his country was in the midst of an economic crisis. The king's headache started years earlier in Palma de Mallorca, the royal family's traditional holiday destination. It was on the Balearic island that Iñaki Urdangarin, the husband of the king's youngest daughter, is alleged to have signed lucrative deals through a non-profit organization he headed. The king's son-in-law is accused of having massively overcharged local authorities for organizing sporting events, and his wife, Princess Cristina, is now also formally named as a suspect in the investigation. The scandal is part of the so-called Palma Arena affair that centres on the suspected embezzlement of public funds during the construction of a velodrome. It also involves ex-government minister and former head of the Balearic Islands regional government, Jaume Matas, charged with a string of accusations including embezzlement and fraud.
The lavish wedding of the Infanta Cristina enthralled the nation. Now the financial affairs of the seventh in line to the Spanish throne and her husband Iñaki Urdangarin are the subject of a damaging criminal investigation. Prosecutors allege her husband, a former Olympic handball player, embezzled €6 million of public funds through a charitable organisation. He denies the charges, which also include fraud and tax evasion.
I testify today to demonstrate my innocence, my honour and my professional activity.
But now his wife has been dragged into the scandal, named as an official suspect after a company she co-owned with her husband was alleged to have been used to launder money.
But many say the most damaging scandal for the credibility of the royal household involves his daughter, Princess Christina. She faces an unprecedented trial on tax fraud charges with her husband and various former associates. A magistrate alleges they diverted public funds for tourism and sports projects for private use. The princess, a sister of the current king, and her husband deny the charges. The trial is expected to start later this year, with Spaniards riveted by the development.
¡Vais a matarme!
Cuidado,
Son cosas que al final se van a acabar tapando.
Everything will be covered up, he says. They'll find a nice excuse so that everything looks fine, but there won't be a good outcome.